Before I play Stefan Molyneux's reaction to Trump's State of the Union address from last night, I want to play a couple quick excerpts from back in 2011 where Molyneux rightly identified the reality of government and the corruption of all politicians.
Number one, is government the antithesis of liberty? No. That is like saying that a dragon is the antithesis of biology, or a ghost is the antithesis of a human being. Governments and dragons and hippogriffs and unicorns and ghosts do not exist. They are really only people with guns and people running and hiding from them. And so the initiation of force is the antithesis of morality and of liberty. The government is simply one large example, but there are many others, rapists, thieves, murderers, assaulters, and so on. So no, government is not the antithesis of liberty. The initiation of force is the antithesis of liberty. In a representative democracy, we are the government. We have work to do, we have a business to run, and we have children to raise. We elect you as our representatives to look after our interests within a democratic system. I mean, these are all just words. I mean, this is exactly what was said about the Soviet Union under Stalin, that it was representative of the will of the people and it represented the interests of the proletariat and so on. But it's not how the government works. It's not what the government is. The financial services industry over the past few decades have contributed over $2 billion in campaign contributions. So they have bought and sold to politicians who should be running around with logos of the companies stitched all over them like NASCAR drivers because they're owned. So the only people we get to vote for are people who've been bought and sold by special interests beforehand.
One of those politicians who's been bought and sold beforehand is Trump. Who bought Trump out of bankruptcy? None other than Zionist Wilbur Ross, who was then head of, get this guys, Rothschilds Incorporated's bankruptcy advisement team. Trump was spoken for and bought by the Rothschilds banking cartel, the money masters of the Federal Reserve nightmare. So even though Stefan Molyneux knows these things to be true, he knows how corrupt and banker-bought politicians, including Trump, are. He knows how poisonous Washington, D.C. is. He knows how slick and deceptive presidents can be. He knows that clever, emotion-moving speeches do nothing more than serve as a feel-good psychological operation which infiltrates the minds of the unthinking masses and solidifies them more in their cognitive dissonance. In spite of having at one time known all of this, here was Molyneux's reaction to Trump's State of the Union speech.
All right, everybody. Stefan Molyneux, and we are going to put, well, what am I talking about? I'm not talking about we. I'm just going to say that I am going to put, it's funny. I really don't think of myself as cynical. I really, really don't think of myself as cynical, but I got to tell you, it was really quite moving to watch this speech. It really was quite moving to watch this speech, Trump's speech. And, there's that, what's that old line? Sometimes I amaze even myself. What's that from Star Wars? Or something like that. And, sometimes I appall even myself because, the giant philosophy brain laser focusing in on all possible Aristotelian interpretations of the sophistry and silver-tongued, orange-haired, devilish politician way with words. Man, I'm going to put all of that aside. I'm going to be unabashedly fanboy enthusiastic for our boy Trump. I got to tell you, that was, excuse my French, one hell of a frickin' speech. It really was. One hell of a speech. And I really found myself, again, I'm cynical about politics. I'm cynical about politicians. But God damn, that was some serious business right there. And I've not felt that before. I mean, I feel like I'm coughing up cynicism, like I'm retching out a hairball of amoral distance from the planet. That was something else. I've never particularly felt emotional. I was tearing up a little. Man, that was something else. So I'll stop just saying, man, that was something else, and we'll talk about some analysis of what is going on. And again, I'm going to catch hell for this over time. I don't care. I really don't care. This was something to experience. This was something to see. This was, damn, that was some fine language. It was beautiful. It had poetry. It had pathos. It did have a certain sort of minority grievance, political correctness. That's to be expected. That's to be understood. That's the way to operate. And that was something else. I mean, that was 2020 in a nutshell, right there. Right there. And I'll put in a couple of caveats, but I'm just going to be wildly enthusiastic. I hope that you will join me. In that, and I may wake up with a cynical hangover tomorrow. But tonight, my friends, we celebrate a triumph of human communication. So yeah, we're tearing up, and Nancy Pelosi is tearing up the State of the Union speech.
Now, guys, I'm not going to give my thoughts on this right here. I just want to hear your thoughts. But please, no ad hominems. Just judge what he said on the merits of his own words and in accordance with the reality we know to be true about politicians in Washington, D.C. I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow ban video.
I mean, the reality is that I'm a philosopher, which means I pursue truth, and I'm sorry if imaginary things get knocked over by my mad drive towards the pinnacle of truth, but they're not there to begin with.